Hello all, welcome to Concept E classes. In this video, we'll study the chapter 6 of class 8 science, combustion and flame. In this chapter, we'll study what is combustion, types of combustion, what is a flame, structure of a flame, what is fuel, fuel efficiency and the harmful effects of burning fuels. So let's start this chapter. So what is combustion? The process of burning any substance is called as combustion. In the chapter of metals and non-metals, we saw an activity where we burn a magnesium ribbon in air. And we saw that magnesium oxide is formed. Along with the magnesium oxide, we can find flames, that is heat and light is also formed. Similarly, when coal is burned, we'll get heat along with light. So we can define combustion as a chemical process in which a substance reacts with oxygen to give off heat. The process in which a substance reacts with oxygen to give off heat and light is called as combustion. The substance that undergoes combustion is said to be a combustible substance. That is, a substance which can burn easily in air is said to be a combustible substance. For example, paper, petrol, diesel, CNG, LPG, kerosene, wood, coal, candle, matchstick, etc. And those substances that do not undergo combustion are called as non-combustible substances. That is, these substances that do not burn in air. For example, glasses, stones, iron, etc. So these combustible substances are also called as a fuel. The fuel may be solid, liquid or gas. So combustion is a process where a substance burns in air to give off heat and light. So this light which is given off would either be as a flame or a glow. We'll study more about fuels and flames in the following slides. Now let's see the requirements of combustion. So what are the conditions required for combustion? A combustible substance or a fuel is required. Air or oxygen is required. That is, without the supply of oxygen, combustion doesn't take place. And finally, heat or ignition temperature is required. That is, heat is provided to the combustible substance in order to raise its temperature above the ignition temperature. So only if these conditions are satisfied, combustion takes place. Now let's see these conditions briefly. In the previous slide, we saw what all are combustible substances. Those substances that can burn easily in air to give off heat and light are called as combustible substance. Now let's see the next condition where air is required for combustion. In order to understand that, let's see a simple experiment. Place a lighted candle over a wooden table and place a chimney over the top of the candle on a few wooden blocks in such a way that air can enter into the chimney from the below, and see what happens to the flame. In the next case, remove these wooden blocks and place the chimney as such onto the wooden table. And the third case, place a glass plate over the chimney and see what happens to the flame. In the first case, we can see that the air enters into the chimney from below, and because of the presence of oxygen, the candle burns freely. In the second case, we can see that the candle, it flickers and finally extinguishes. That's because the air cannot enter below the chimney, and what all air which is present inside the chimney is used by the candle for burning, and when there is no air, it flickers and it extinguishes. In the third case, what happens is that the flame goes out. That is because the air is not available, therefore it extinguishes. So from this experiment, we can say that air is required for combustion. Now let's see how heat is required for combustion. Let's see a few examples. Does a matchstick burn by itself? No. When a matchstick is rubbed on the sides of a matchbox, heat is created due to friction and thus matchstick burns. Similarly, a paper, it also doesn't burn on its own, but it burns when a matchstick is brought to it. But if we use a lighted matchstick to a piece of wood, or in the case of a coal, it doesn't burn as how it burns a paper. We have to either use a paper or a kerosene oil to start fire in wood or coal. So in all these cases, we understand that different substances catch fire at different temperature. The lowest temperature at which a substance catches fire is called as ignition temperature. The lowest temperature at which a substance catches fire is called as its ignition temperature. A combustible substance cannot catch fire or cannot undergo combustion as long as its temperature is lower than its ignition temperature. Therefore, we should apply heat in order to rise its temperature more than its ignition temperature. Let's see more examples. Have you ever seen the cooking oil? It catches fire in a frying pan if it's kept on the fire on the burning stove for a long time. That is because the oil, it reaches its ignition temperature and it catches fire. Similarly, in the case of a kerosene oil, if you burn a matchstick and near a kerosene oil, it catches fire quickly. But wood does not catch fire easily at room temperature. Even if you bring a matchstick near the wood, it would not catch fire. So from this we can say that the ignition temperature of kerosene is lower than that of wood. Now real-time example are the forest fires. During extreme heat conditions or in summer seasons, the dry leaves, it reaches its ignition temperature and it catches fire. And thus it spread to the trees and then the whole forest would be on fire. So that is a real-time example of ignition temperature. So let's study more about matchsticks. The history of matchstick is very old. The matchstick contains a mixture of antimony trisulfide and potassium chlorate. The matchstick doesn't burn by itself. It has to be rubbed on the sides of the matchbox. The rubbing surface has a powdered glass and a little red phosphorus. And when the matchstick is struck against the rubbing surface, some red phosphorus gets converted into white phosphorus. This immediately reacts with potassium chlorate in the matchstick head to produce enough heat to ignite the antimony trisulfide and thereby starting combustion. So the substances which have very low ignition temperature and which can easily catch fire with a flame are called as inflammable substances. So this is a symbol of an inflammable substance, and we can find the symbol over the trucks which have a petrol, alcohol and all. See this symbol. So the examples of inflammable substance are petrol, alcohol, LPG, etc. So we studied how fire is formed. Now we'll see how we can control fire. The three essential requirements for combustion or for producing fire are fuel, air and heat to raise the temperature beyond the ignition temperature. So how can we control fire? So we can control fire if we remove one of these requirements. If one of these requirements is not satisfied, combustion doesn't take place. So let's see how we can control fire. So the first case is that we could remove the fuel. In most cases, the fuel cannot be eliminated. For instance, if a building catches fire, the whole building is a fuel. So we cannot remove the fuel as such. So the second way to control fire is by cutting off the supply of air. So for that we use fire extinguishers. The job of a fire extinguisher is to cut off the supply of air or to bring down the temperature of the fuel or both. There are different types of fire extinguishers. The most common one is the water extinguisher. The water extinguisher is used for extinguishing fires on solids such as wood, paper, etc. The water, it cools the fire and extinguishes it, but it is not suitable for fires involving electrical equipments. That is because if electrical equipment is on fire, the water may conduct electricity, harming those persons who are putting out the fire. And it's also not suitable for fires involving oil and petrol. We have studied in the formation of petroleum that water is heavier than oil. So if we use water to extinguish fires involving oil and petroleum, the water sinks down and the oil keeps burning on the top. Therefore, water extinguisher is not suitable for fires involving oil and petroleum. The next type of fire extinguisher is carbon dioxide extinguisher. For fire involving electrical equipments and inflammable materials like petrol, carbon dioxide is the best extinguisher. This is a carbon dioxide fire extinguisher. The carbon dioxide, being heavier than oxygen, it covers a fire like a blanket. So what it does, it cuts off the contact between the fuel and oxygen and thereby controlling the fire. It does not harm the electrical equipment. This is the best advantage of carbon dioxide extinguisher. And it can be stored at high pressure as liquids in cylinders. And when it is released from the cylinders, the carbon dioxide, it expands enormously in volume and it cools down as well. So it brings down the temperature of the fuel. Another way to get carbon dioxide is to release a lot of dry powder of chemicals like sodium bicarbonate or potassium bicarbonate, and near the fire these chemicals, they give out carbon dioxide. So in such a case we could cut off the supply of air. Now the third method of controlling fire is by reducing the temperature of the object. For that, water is used. Water cools the combustible material so that its temperature is brought below its ignition temperature, and this prevents the fire from spreading. The water vapors also surround the combustible material, which helps in cutting off the supply of air, thereby extinguishing fire. So we can control fire by removing the fuel, by cutting off the supply of air, or by reducing the temperature of the combustible material below its ignition temperature. So we saw what is combustion, what are the conditions required for combustion, and now we'll see the types of combustion. There are three types of combustion: rapid combustion, spontaneous combustion, and explosive combustion. Now let's see rapid combustion. The combustion in which a material burns rapidly and produces a lot of heat and light is called as rapid combustion. Example: LPG, kerosene oil, petrol, natural gas, etc. If you bring a burning matchstick or a gas lighter near a gas stove in the kitchen, and if you turn on the knob of the gas stove, we can see that the gas burns rapidly and it produces heat and light. So such type of combustion is called as rapid combustion. So what is spontaneous combustion? The combustion in which a material suddenly bursts into flames without the application of any apparent cause is called as spontaneous combustion. That is, in this type of combustion, no external heat is required. It burns on its own. For example, phosphorus, the spontaneous combustion in coal dust, which results in many disastrous fires in coal mines, and also the spontaneous forest fires, which are sometimes formed due to the heat of the sun or lightning strike, are examples of spontaneous combustion. Now let's see explosive combustion. When a material is ignited, a sudden reaction takes place with the evolution of heat, light and sound, and a large amount of gas is also formed in this reaction. Such a reaction is called as explosion. For example, if a cracker is ignited, what happens? It burns with a large sound, with evolution of heat and a large amount of gas. Such type of combustion is called as explosion. So we studied that a combustion is the burning of any substance to give off heat and light, and this light is given off during combustion either as a flame or as a glow. So the next topic is about flames. Flame is a visible gaseous part of the fire. Example of flames is the flame of a Bunsen burner, of a candle, of a kerosene lamp, as well as the flame of a gas stove. So how is flame formed? The substances which vaporize during burning gives flames. That is, flames are a result of the substances which vaporizes on burning. For example, the kerosene oil and molten wax. They rise through the wicks and are vaporized during burning, thereby forming flames. And there are some substances which burns without producing flames. For example, coal, charcoal, they only glow to give off the light. Now let's study the structure of flames. The flame mainly contains three parts: the outer zone, the middle zone and the innermost zone. Now let's see each of these zones briefly. So the first part is the innermost zone. It is black in color and it consists of unburned wax vapors. It is the least hot part of the flame as no combustion takes place here. So the next part is the middle zone. It is yellow in color and it is a luminous zone. It's moderately hot and here partial combustion takes place. Third one is the outer zone or the outermost part of the flame. It is blue in color and it's faintly visible. It is a non-luminous zone and it is the hottest part of the flame. Here complete combustion takes place. So that's all for the structure of flames. The goldsmith blows these outermost zone of the flame with a metallic blowpipe for melting gold and silver. That is because the temperature is high on the outermost zone and it's sufficient enough to melt gold and silver. Therefore, the goldsmith used this part of the flame. So in the first few slides, we saw that the combustible substances are also called as fuels. So what is a fuel? The substance that undergoes combustion to produce heat energy is called as fuels. The substance that undergoes combustion to produce heat energy is called as fuels. But all combustible substances burn and it's not necessary that they produce a large amount of heat. Hence we can say that fuels are combustible substances, but we cannot say that all combustible substances are fuels. The fuels can either be solid like coke, coal, wood, cow dung cake, or it can be liquid like petrol, kerosene, diesel, liquid petroleum gas, or sometimes gas as well, methane, compressed natural gas, biogas and hydrogen. So fuel is said to be a good fuel if it is readily available, that is it is easy to transport, it's cheap, it has a moderate ignition temperature, it produces a large amount of heat and it does not leave behind any undesirable substance. And the fuel which satisfies all these characteristics of a good fuel is said to be an ideal fuel, and probably there is no such ideal fuel present. So we studied that all fuels produce heat energy on burning. Some fuels burn more heat than other fuels. So how can we choose which one is better, or how can we understand the efficiency of the fuel? So for that we use calorific value. The efficiency of a fuel can be estimated by calculating the calorific value. What is calorific value? The amount of heat energy produced on the complete combustion of 1 kilo of fuel is called as its calorific value, and it is expressed in the unit of kilojoules per kilo. Kilojoule is the unit of energy and kilo is the unit of mass. So the amount of heat energy produced on the complete combustion of 1 kilo of fuel is said to be calorific value, and it is expressed in kilojoule per kilo. For example, if the calorific value of LPG is 55,000 kilojoules per kilo, we can say that 55,000 kilojoules of heat energy is produced on the complete combustion of 1 kilo LPG. So these are the calorific values of different fuels. The cow dung cake has a calorific value of 6,000 to 8,000 kilojoules per kilo. Wood 17,000 to 22,000. Coal, the calorific value is 25,000 to 33,000. Petrol 45,000 kilojoules per kilo. And kerosene 45,000. Diesel 45,000. Methane 50,000. Compressed natural gas, it has a calorific value of 50,000. Liquid petroleum gas has a calorific value of 55,000. Biogas 35,000 to 40,000, and hydrogen it's 1,50,000 calorific value. So the last topic of this chapter is the harmful effects of burning fuels. The increasing fuel consumption has harmful effects on our environment. So let's see some of the harmful effects. The carbon fuels like wood, coal, petroleum, it releases unburnt carbon particles, and these fine particles are dangerous pollutants causing respiratory diseases such as asthma. That is, when we burn wood, it gives a lot of smoke which is very harmful for the human beings. And the trees which provide us useful substances are also lost if we use wood as a fuel. Moreover, cutting these trees leads to deforestation, which is very harmful for the environment. The incomplete combustion of these fuels, such as wood or coal, it gives us carbon monoxide gas. It is a very poisonous and dangerous gas that even results in the death of human beings. Another harmful effect is that the combustion of most fuels, they release in carbon dioxide in the environment, and the increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the air, it causes global warming. Global warming, it is a rise of the temperature of the atmosphere due to the increased concentration of the carbon dioxide, and this results in the melting of polar glaciers, which also leads to floods in low-lying areas. So burning of coal and diesel, it releases sulfur dioxide gas. It is an extremely suffocating and corrosive gas. Moreover, petrol engines gives off gaseous oxides of nitrogen. So the oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, they dissolve in the rainwater and form acids such as sulfuric acid and nitric acid. And such a rain is called as acid rain, and it is very harmful for crops, buildings as well as soil. So the use of diesel and petrol should be minimized. It should be replaced by compressed natural gas, as it is a much more cleaner fuel. So that's all for the chapter 6. Combustion and flame. The next video will be the question and answers of this chapter. Tune in soon for the next session. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe if you find the contents useful. Thank you so much. May God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.